Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. In this video, we are going to look at how we can define our own user-defined function. This is the overview of the chapter. First, we are going to look at the basics about user-defined function and function files. Next, we look at the structure of the function and then how we can use or call the user-defined functions. We'll also cover this subtopic of functions, which is the anonymous functions, and also sub-functions. For the introduction, the MATLAB programming language is actually built around functions. Function is actually a piece of computer code that accepts an input argument from the user and provides output to the program. But why we need to use functions in programming? There are several reasons why we need to use functions in our MATLAB program. The first one is usually MATLAB program involve a very complex task or a very large piece of code. That's it. It means that you are going to have more than 2 lines of MATLAB code that you might want to reuse in a few or several places. So in that case, we want to write the program as a reusable function file, because as we know, the command that we type on command window is only executed every time we type and hit enter. Okay, that's the same situation for the script file. So every time we run the script files, all the variables are available on workspace, and then we have access to the variables, and then we can use that script files. But with function file, it will make the program more we can divide the program into a few pieces, okay, that make up the large program code. When you have a function file, you just need to call the function every time you need to execute that specific task. So this modularity helps break down a huge program task into a collection of smaller tasks. Okay, this collection of smaller tasks will make your MATLAB program run faster and also makes your code look more neat, because instead of having the major part of your program, for example, you have 1000 lines of codes, you can just break down a huge program into a very smaller function file. Okay, and then these files are easier to design, write, debug, and maintain. We have already explored many of MATLAB's built-in functions, but you may wish to define your own functions, those that are used commonly in your programming. So user-defined functions can be defined either as separate files, okay, this in the case of for MATLAB 2015, or at the end of a script file. But for the latter, defining at the end of a script file, I think most probably this is applicable to more recent version of MATLAB, maybe 2060 and above. You should know that the way how functions are structured is very important. Both built-in MATLAB functions and user-defined functions have the same structure. So each function consists of a function definition line, function body, which is everything between the first and last line. Okay, function body usually consists of the computer program code that actually perform the calculation. And finally, the function should end with this end keyword, especially if the function is within a script file or if it is a nested or sub-function. So let's look at the structure of a function file. The first line of a function is the function definition statement. Okay, the first line here. The first line should begin with a function word, and contains the function output and function input. The function outputs are the variables whose values are calculated by the function using the provided input arguments. The output arguments are enclosed in the square brackets, okay, separated by comma, especially if it has a more than one output variable. After the assignment statement is where you put your function name. You have to remember that the function name should match the function file name. Following the function name is the input argument list separated by comma, okay, list inside this round bracket or parenthesis. Line 2 and line 3 here is the summary of the function, and normally we also include the description of the input or output variables that the function is going to use. Line 4 and 5 here are the function body. Okay, this is where we insert our equation, expression, or any calculation that the function need to perform to obtain the calculated output variable. And we always end our function file with this AND keyword. Here is the general structure of the function file. As I said previously, it must have the word function, and then followed by the list of output arguments inside the square brackets. Put comma if there is more than one output. Function name should match MATLAB file name, and the input argument must be specified. You have to know that sometimes the input and output variables are also called the input and output arguments. These are the rules for creating a function file. So point number 1, okay, is important. You have to remember to insert the function word in a lowercase letters, and then a function name should match the file name. And remember that the rules for naming function are the same as for naming variables, so it means you can use letters, alphabets, and underscores only. You should start with letters. And the order of input and output arguments matters while calling the function. It means that the way that you put you call the input and output variable while you are going to use a defined function, you're going to use the function methods. So this is what you should insert inside the function body. Okay, remember for function body, you should write the computer code, the MATLAB code that actually perform the calculation. Okay, in writing that code, you can use all the MATLAB programming features that you have learned so far. This include the vector matrices, okay, manipulation, any assignments, any built-in or user-defined function, flow control, blank lines, and also you can use the interactive input and output, okay, such as the input command that we have learned previously. Next thing, you should know how to use a function. Okay, normally whenever we want to use a function, we call that function by typing the name of that function on either command window or on other script files. Okay, when typing the function name, you should also include the input arguments inside the parentheses. Okay, parentheses means the round bracket, the normal bracket. So this one I have mentioned few times. Okay, make sure you insert a semicolon at the end of the function to suppress the output. Okay, the variable names in the function call do not need to match the variable names in the function definition line. However, they must be provided in the same order. Okay, only the order are important. The variable names could be different between whatever that you define on function file and whatever that you want to use when calling that function. You can look at this table where we have a different number of inputs from 1, 2 and none, and different number of outputs, none, 1 and 2, and these are the function call syntax. Okay, means whatever, it means the command that you type when you want to call a function. Okay, for example, when you want to call a function that have 2 inputs and 2 outputs, then you are going to write this function syntax. Okay, except for the output variable here, you can change the variable name, okay, according to whatever you want. The function name should match the function file, and input variable whatever the variable that you define inside the function. Okay, so that's all for the basics about user defined function.